Hey, it's Mo Egger. This football season, post up at Long Neck Sports Grill. No place has a better beer selection, and if you haven't tried Long Neck's wings yet, what are you waiting for? The menu is extensive, and there's a ton of 4K TVs all over the place. And remember, at Long Neck's, the sound is on for all the big games. College or pro, this football season, make Long Neck your go-to spot for every game. Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood, Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay long, come often. I think we all have questions about Joe Burrow's turf toe injury, so here to answer some of them is Dr. Nick Gates from OrthoCincy's Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. You know what huge fans of OrthoCincy's we are. The great thing about OrthoCincy's is they have specialist locations and services all over the tri-state. This includes walk-in orthopedic urgent care at 5 locations with extended evening and weekend hours. In Edgewood and Anderson, you can learn more at OrthoCincy.com. Remember, you never need an appointment. OrthoCincy.com. Dr. Nick Gates is with us. Let's start with the basics here. It's a turf toe injury. I know that injury in and of itself to a lot of folks sounds relatively benign. Explain what turf toe is, where it's actually located on the big toe, and why something like this can be so debilitating.
Take yourself to your big toe. Make sure everyone understands it's the bottom of your big toe. You're right. It can be pretty painful, and it can be pretty debilitating because if you tear the ligaments on the bottom of your big toe, it can remain pretty painful and sore to do anything that requires push-off. You're using that foot to push off, and so there's a lot of force going across that toe joint, much more than we appreciate when it's healthy.
So this is a grade 3 turf toe injury that is reportedly going to require surgery. Explain this type of injury versus a grade 3 turf toe injury that doesn't require surgery.
Now, that's getting into the weeds right there. It's a great question. Grade 3 just indicates complete tear. We have grade 1, 2, and 3 tears of other ligaments in the body that you hear. Grade 3 indicates complete tear. That ligament is completely torn and shows evidence of instability, or there's a fracture of a bone. There's 2 sesamoid bones that sit in what's called our plantar plate. That's the ligament underneath your big toe. If you tear that ligament completely, that's a grade 3. If you also separate one of the bones, that makes it more complex and more likely to require surgery. I will say some with just complete tears of the ligament are going to need surgery because the joint is unstable. If it's unstable, the toe won't stay in the correct position without surgery. If you break through one of those bones, it makes it unstable typically. So if the toe joint is unstable with a grade 3 injury, that will typically lead to surgery.
Is this the sort of thing you at times hear about injuries where the injury occurs, but surgery can't happen until a few days have passed? Is this something like that, or could they do it as soon as today?
I would be a little surprised if they do it as soon as today. It certainly is something that can be done within the next several days. Some surgeons may opt to let some of the swelling go down for even up to a week or so before they perform the surgery. But it's something they're going to want to get to in a relatively timely fashion. In a range, you would think this would be done within 7 days or 10 days at the most.
So once the surgery happens, walk me through recovery and the rehab process. What does that look like?
The recovery is going to be, unfortunately, some offloading or with the use of crutches and or a knee scooter, certainly a boot that we saw him in yesterday. The boot is required to stabilize or protect those ligaments on the bottom of the foot. It would surprise me if they let him even bear weight on the foot initially. There'll be a time where he cannot put his foot on the ground. Unfortunately, that can lead to some secondary issues with atrophy. I'm sure they will immediately deal with those things and even be able to perform some therapy to minimize the atrophy on the rest of the leg while he's recovering. And it's going to take some time for those ligaments to heal stable enough for him to bear weight and then actually move the joint. So there's a time where the joint has to be held still, depending upon the type of surgical repair. And once that happens, the next phases will begin to be able to bear weight and to get motion in the toe.
Dr. Nick Gates from OrthoCincy's is with us. The timeline that is being reported is minimum 3 months. So I guess that's best case. Does that timeline mesh with what you've come to understand about this injury?
Unfortunately, that's true. Very true. This is not something that they're going to want to rush through. This is not something that you typically will see someone play with when it's sore and try to quote unquote play through it. There's certain injuries you can do that with. A grade 3 turf toe is not. Unfortunately, you'll see with other NFL players, particularly quarterbacks, there are more mild cases. There are grade 1 and 2 where an athlete might be out for a week or 2 or 3 and then gradually resume their activities. But in a grade 3 injury with surgery, that 3-month timeline, I think, is very accurate and potentially somewhat conservative. So I would be impressed and hopeful that it would be back in 3 months.
But that does feel like best case for you.
It does. If this surgery goes through as they are reporting, yes, 3 months sounds like best case scenario.
Somebody asked me on social media last night a question that I'm obviously not equipped to answer, but the question was essentially like, is this the sort of injury that just happens, or could this be the result of an accumulation of things where maybe he suffers turf toe and he plays through it and then the grade gets worse, that sort of thing? Or does this just, look, it's like breaking a leg, right? It just happens. Is this that kind of injury?
From what I see, this just happened to him. I see no reports or evidence or watching him through the preseason he was being hampered by this at all. And that's how the majority of these are. I will tell you, there are some cases, and you mentioned how some people will minimize, and think, well, it's just your toe. What's the big deal? There are players who will have, say, grade 1 or grade 2 turf toe injury and try to push through that, and that will linger and become chronic. And that's a battle with a lot of athletes, because a lot of athletes want to ignore their toe pain and just push through it. But in this case, with the video we see, this looks like it's just something that happened. Unfortunately, that lineman came down on the back of his heel, which forced that toe into that position.
One of the things that was interesting to me, and I won't keep you too much longer, is when he first went down, he was holding his calf. Why would you hold your calf if you've got a toe injury?
I think he was just starting to localize the pain at that point. I think that was quick right after it happened, and he was just starting to reach down himself. And reaching out. I don't think it had anything to do with his calf, other than it certainly could have strained the calf with that same mechanism a bit.
One more, lay people will say things like, well, he's injury prone. And it goes without saying he has a laundry list of physical issues he has had to deal with. When an expert like yourself hears someone refer to a quarterback or any athlete as being injury prone, does that come off as unfair? Is that somewhat accurate? What's your reaction to that?
I think the term injury prone, it sounds negative and has a negative connotation to it. I think my opinion is Joe Burrow has been very unlucky, but I don't think there's anything in him or what he does or how he prepares that leads to him being injury prone. I don't think he takes unnecessary risks. I don't think he does those things. I think he just has been unlucky. And I will tell you, I think that's more often than not the case with athletes that you see with multiple injuries. I see athletes also who I think are incredibly lucky. Seeing athletes who play complete careers and have hardly spent a moment on the sideline through high school or college or even the pros.
Well said. I can't thank you enough. We did this on short notice. Thank you so much. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Mo. Happy to be here.
I hate that we have to have this conversation about Joe Burrow, but I love the fact that we have experts at our disposal from OrthoCincy. I say this every single week because it's true. The great thing about OrthoCincy is they have specialists and locations all over the tri-state. This includes walk-in orthopedic urgent care weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at both their Edgewood and Anderson locations. It's easy because you don't need an appointment, and it's definitely cheaper than going to an ER whenever you have an urgent orthopedic injury. Go to OrthoCincy.com. That's OrthoCincy.com. Hey, it's Mo Egger. This football season, post up at Long Neck Sports Grill. No place has a better beer selection, and if you haven't tried Long Neck's wings yet, what are you waiting for? The menu is extensive, and there's a ton of 4K TVs all over the place. And remember, at Long Necks, the sound is on for all the big games. College or pro, this football season, make Long Necks your go-to spot for every game. Wilder, Hebron, and Richwood, Long Neck Sports Grill. Stay long, come often.